Yeah, my grandmother, who was a nurse, used to say, my grandmother was a nurse, and she used to say that suggestions and tips and free advice, it's kind of like acid reflux, flatulence. It always comes at the most inopportune time, and no one's ever grateful for it. We all have it every now and then, but no one's ever grateful for it, and people are generally put off by it. So keep it to yourself. So fine. So it's best instead of sharing it with someone. So instead of sharing it. So it's best to, instead of sharing it with others, find an open window and let it out there where no one will know. Well, my grandmother was a nurse. Well, my grandmother who was a nurse used to say that suggestions are kind of like, unwarranted suggestions are kind of like an enema. The only one who gets any satisfaction and she used to say that, unsolicited advice or suggestions, they're kind of like enemas. People are only grateful for them if they ask for them. And really, you want to keep it. And really, you want to keep it to yourself. Unrequested advice, unsolicited advice or suggestions about how somebody should do their job are like enemas. The only one who ever feels better afterwards is the one who gave it. People will only be grateful for them or it if they ask for it. And generally speaking, you want to do it in private. Those suggestions are like enemas. You want to always make sure that whether you're the giver or the receiver, you do it in private, first of all. And generally speaking, the only time anyone is ever grateful for it is when they ask for it. And the whole procedure is just not a pleasant one for anybody involved. So remember that the next time you're going to get unsolicited advice. A communicate is like that's irresponsible. My father, who was a real estate developer, used to say that unsolicited advice and suggestions, especially about how somebody should do his or her work. Well, my Aunt Pearl, who would always win the Minnesota State Fair pickling contest. She always win the blue ribbon. She used to say that unsolicited advice or suggestions on how somebody should do his or her work, it's kind of like giving somebody a pickled turd. Well, my Aunt Ruby, who used to always win the Minnesota State Fair's pickling contest every year, she used to say that giving people unsolicited advice or suggestions on how they should do his or her job was like giving somebody a pickled turd. You never know if it's going to be good or bad until you try it. But once you give it out, there's no taking it back. And chances are people will not be happy with you once you give it to them and they take a bite. What? Doesn't make any sense. I should not be doing this.